A godly woman always wins not through noise or fame, but through quiet faith, unwavering integrity, and relentless grace. Her power is prayer, her strength is resilience, and her influence is rooted in purpose. She may not seek the spotlight, but her life reflects heaven, and in God's eyes, she never loses. A godly woman's life begins and is sustained by one thing, faith, but not the kind of faith that floats in wishful thinking or vague optimism. Hers is a deeply rooted trust in God, a foundation that holds strong when everything else shakes. While others may build their lives on talent, charm, relationships, or success, she knows those things shift like shadows. She chooses instead to anchor her soul in the one who does not change. This foundation isn't built in a day. It's formed in quiet hours with God, in whispered prayers, in tears that fall in the hidden places. It's a faith that has been wrestled into place through nights of uncertainty and days when she had to choose trust over panic. She's learned to walk by faith, not by sight, even when the road ahead disappears in fog. And this kind of faith doesn't make her passive, it makes her powerful. When disappointments come, as they always do, she doesn't crumble. Her world might tremble, but her heart stays steady because she knows the God who holds her future. She doesn't need all the answers to move forward, she just needs to know the one who does. While others chase clarity, she clings to trust, and that trust gives her a calm the world can't explain. Faith becomes her filter. She doesn't interpret her life through the lens of fear, comparison, or insecurity. She interprets it through the promises of God. When things go wrong, she doesn't spiral, she speaks truth to her own soul. She remembers that God is still good, still sovereign, still with her. That remembrance gives her a quiet boldness, a kind of spiritual poise that doesn't break easily. Her faith also shapes how she treats others. She loves generously, not because people always deserve it, but because she knows grace has been given to her first. She forgives not because it's easy, but because she knows she's been forgiven more. Her faith isn't just personal, it's relational. It affects how she leads, how she serves, how she shows up. And people notice. There's something unshakable in her presence, not because she's immune to pain, but because she's anchored in truth. Even when life doesn't go the way she planned, she doesn't lose heart. Her faith isn't in outcomes, it's in a person. That's why she's never truly defeated. Loss may touch her life, but it never touches her identity. Her hope isn't tied to temporary victories, it's tethered to eternity. So when the storms rise and everything else is exposed, she remains. Not because she's stronger than everyone else, but because her foundation is deeper. Her life is built on the rock. And when the dust settles, that's why she wins. There is a kind of strength the world doesn't understand. It's not loud, it doesn't shout to be seen, and it doesn't demand the spotlight. It's the strength of quietness, a deep, unwavering steadiness that refuses to be shaken by the noise around it. A godly woman carries this strength like breath in her lungs. It doesn't announce itself, but it shapes everything she touches. She doesn't need to prove herself in every conversation. She doesn't compete with voices in the room or grasp for validation. Her strength isn't in volume, it's in presence. It's in the way she listens when others talk over each other. It's in how she responds with wisdom instead of reaction. In a world that equates noise with power, she has learned the sacred rhythm of stillness. She has learned that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is be still and let God fight for you. Her quiet strength doesn't come from avoiding conflict or shrinking back. It's not silence born of fear. It's silence born of confidence. She knows when to speak and when to stay silent. She understands that not every battle needs her sword, some just need her surrender. She's not weak for walking away from a fight that would cost her peace. She's strong because she knows what's worth her energy and what isn't. There's a rare discipline in her spirit. She chooses peace even when chaos calls her name. She chooses self-control when emotion rises. She chooses to walk away when pride tempts her to stay and prove a point. And none of this is easy. It takes courage to stay quiet when the flesh wants to lash out. It takes strength to trust God with what you can't control instead of trying to fix it yourself. But that's the power of her quietness. It's not the absence of power. It's the presence of restraint. When the world leans on noise to survive, she leans on prayer. When the world pushes for instant response, she leans into the still, small voice of God. And in that quiet place, she is filled. In that quiet place, she is strengthened. Her decisions come from peace, not panic. Her words come from discernment, not impulse. That's why people trust her. That's why others feel safe in her presence, because her calm isn't just emotional, it's spiritual. Her life becomes a testimony that stillness is not passivity. Quietness is not weakness. It is the evidence of a soul anchored in truth. It is a sign of a heart that knows it doesn't have to yell to be heard by God. The world may overlook her, may misunderstand her silence for softness, but she doesn't mind, because the approval she seeks is not from man, but from the one who sees in secret. In the end, it is her quiet strength that carries her through storms, not with shouting, but with stillness, not with chaos, but with calm. And in that, she walks in a strength the world cannot take away. A godly woman doesn't live to be seen, she lives to be faithful. While the world chases popularity, applause, and visibility, she pursues purpose. Her life is not driven by trends or fleeting moments of recognition. She is anchored in something deeper, something eternal. She knows that popularity is loud and temporary, but purpose is quiet and lasting. And so she walks a path that not everyone will understand. She is not afraid to be different. She doesn't compromise her values to fit into rooms where truth is unwelcome. She doesn't dilute her convictions to be liked. She's not trying to please everyone because she's already chosen whom she serves. That choice, God over culture, obedience over approval, is the reason her life has weight. It's the reason her words carry substance and her actions inspire trust. She isn't trying to be impressive, she's trying to be faithful. And that makes all the difference. She understands that living for purpose often means walking alone. There will be moments when she's misunderstood, when people question her choices, when they wonder why she doesn't chase what everyone else seems to want. But she has made peace with being set apart. She knows that being set apart is not rejection, it's calling. It's clarity. It's the evidence that she belongs to something bigger than herself. Her decisions are filtered through purpose. She asks different questions than the world asks. Not, will this make me liked? But does this honor God? Not, will this gain me followers? But is this faithful to what I've been called to do? That mindset changes everything. It slows her down. It grounds her. It helps her stay focused when distractions try to pull her off course. And when the spotlight comes, as it sometimes does, she doesn't let it change her. She doesn't let success rewrite her motives. She doesn't let attention inflate her sense of worth. She knows who she is with or without the platform. Her confidence doesn't come from how many people are watching. It comes from knowing she is walking in step with her Creator. Purpose has trained her to value substance over shine. She's not impressed by superficial success. She looks deeper at character, at calling, at consistency, and she holds herself to that same standard. She shows up with integrity when no one's watching. She works quietly behind the scenes. She serves faithfully in small things, because she knows that purpose isn't always glamorous, but it is always significant. Popularity fades, and she knows it. Trends change, crowds shift, opinions waver, but purpose remains. And she is not afraid to be overlooked if it means she is aligned with her assignment. Because at the end of the day, she's not living for the crowd, she's living for the King. And that gives her a joy, a direction, and a strength that far outweighs the momentary high of human approval. A godly woman is not defined by how easy her life is, but by how steady she remains when everything around her breaks. Resilience is not something she simply wakes up with, it is something she has built day by day, storm by storm. Life has tested her, stretched her, knocked her down more than once. But each time she has risen not by her own strength, but by the grace of the one who carries her through. The storms didn't make her bitter, they made her better. They didn't crush her spirit, they refined it. She knows what it means to be disappointed, to feel the sting of betrayal, to walk through loss and uncertainty. But rather than letting those things define her, she lets them deepen her. She has learned to meet pain with prayer, to face fear with faith, and to walk through the fire without losing her song. Her resilience isn't denial, it's determination. She doesn't pretend the storm isn't real, she just refuses to let it control the outcome. In the hardest seasons, she clings even tighter to God. She doesn't rely on her emotions to carry her, she leans into the truth of who God is, even when everything in her life feels unclear. She has learned that peace is not the absence of a storm, but the presence of God in the middle of it. So she keeps showing up, keeps believing, keeps walking. Her faith doesn't remove the storm, but it reshapes her posture in the middle of it. There is a calm to her that confuses people. They wonder how she's still smiling, still serving, still standing. They don't see the hours spent weeping in secret, the nights where her only words were groans too deep for language. But God saw, and He met her there, and it was in those quiet battles that her resilience was forged. She came out not just surviving, but stronger, softer, wiser. She doesn't carry a chip on her shoulder. She carries the evidence of someone who's been held by God. Every scar has a story, not of defeat, but of grace. Every loss has been turned into a deeper trust. She no longer fears the storm because she's seen what it produces in her. She knows now that sometimes the shaking is what roots her deeper. The breaking is what opens her up to more of God. Her resilience is quiet, but it is fierce. She's not unshaken because life has been easy. She's unshaken because she's grounded in something unmovable. She has chosen to trust in the one who is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And because of that, she endures, not just with gritted teeth, but with grace. Not just surviving, but shining. The storm didn't end her, it revealed her. It showed what she's made of. And more than that, it showed who she belongs to. A godly woman understands that real power doesn't come from her voice being the loudest or her presence being the most noticed. It comes from her connection to God, and that connection is forged in prayer. Prayer is not her last resort, it's her first response. It's not a ritual for her, it's a lifeline. She has learned that when she bends her knees, heaven moves. When she lifts her heart to God, things shift in the unseen. And over time, prayer has not only changed her circumstances, it has changed her. She doesn't pray because life is perfect. She prays because she knows she can't do it on her own. She knows her wisdom is limited, her strength runs dry, and her emotions can't always be trusted. So she turns to the one who sees all, knows all, and holds all things together. In the secret place, she finds clarity. In the stillness of prayer, she finds direction. She has learned to pause before she reacts, to pray before she decides, and to seek before she steps. Through prayer, she has discovered a different kind of power, one that isn't self-made, but spirit-given. She's seen what happens when she brings her worries, her dreams, and her battles before God. She's watched doors open that she didn't knock on, hearts change that she couldn't reach, and situations shift that seemed impossible. And even when nothing on the outside changed, she changed. Her peace deepened, her faith strengthened, her spirit settled. She's not afraid to pray bold prayers, not because she's confident in herself, but because she's confident in the character of God. She knows He listens. She knows He cares. And even when His answer is wait or not yet, she keeps coming, not to convince Him, but to stay close to Him. Her prayer life isn't built on formulas, it's built on relationship. She talks to God like a father, walks with Him like a friend, and worships Him like her king. Her prayers aren't always polished. Sometimes they're messy, raw, and full of emotion, but they are honest. And God meets her there, not with judgment, but with comfort. He refuels her in the quiet. He reminds her of who she is and who she is. And from that place of prayer, she rises with fresh strength, not because the weight is gone, but because she's no longer carrying it alone. She understands that some battles are not meant to be fought with words or strategy, but with intercession. She fights for her family in prayer. She covers her children, her spouse, her church, her community. Her strength is not seen in the spotlight, but in the shadows, where she contends for things no one else sees. And that's where her real influence lies, not in how loud she is, but in how faithfully she prays. She is not powerless, she is prayerful, and that's where her power comes from. A godly woman doesn't seek to influence the world by force or manipulation. Her influence comes from something far more lasting, her integrity. She doesn't need a platform to make an impact. Her life speaks for itself. It speaks in how she treats people when no one's watching, in the promises she keeps, and in the consistency of her character. She understands that real influence doesn't come from charisma, it comes from trust. And trust is built through time, truth, and unwavering integrity. She doesn't bend her values to gain approval. She doesn't adjust her convictions based on convenience. Her yes means yes, and her no means no. People know where she stands not because she is confrontational, but because she is clear, steady, and sincere. She's not trying to impress people, she's trying to honor God. And that intention saturates everything she does. There is something deeply powerful about someone who lives the same way in public and in private. Her integrity becomes a mirror for others. It challenges them, not because she judges them, but because she lives with such quiet conviction that it exposes what's missing in a world obsessed with appearances. She doesn't need to shout about her beliefs, she embodies them. In her words, in her choices, in how she responds when things go wrong. She carries herself with grace, but not compromise. When others cut corners to get ahead, she stays on the long road. When others exaggerate to be liked, she speaks with honesty. When others gossip, she guards her tongue. And while this may not always earn her popularity, it earns her something greater respect. Her life becomes a kind of lighthouse in a sea of inconsistency. People may not always agree with her, but they know she is true, and that makes her influence powerful. In her home, she sets the tone. Her children learn integrity not from lectures, but from her example. In the workplace, she brings reliability and wisdom. She does what's right, even when it costs her. And when she fails, and she sometimes does, she owns it. She apologizes. She makes it right. Because integrity isn't about being flawless. It's about being honest, humble, and accountable. Her integrity also protects her. It becomes a shield against compromise, a filter for decision-making, a compass when the way forward is unclear. When temptation whispers, integrity reminds her who she is. When pressure rises, integrity anchors her in what matters most. And in that strength, she quietly influences every space she enters. She doesn't have to force people to listen to her. They watch her. They notice how she lives. And slowly, her example begins to shift things. It softens hearts, inspires conviction, and awakens a hunger for something real. That's the kind of influence that can't be faked. That's the kind of legacy that outlives popularity. She influences not because she tries to be powerful, but because she's faithful, and that is the kind of influence that heaven honors. A godly woman leads differently. She doesn't lead from pride or position, she leads from grace. Her leadership is not about control or dominance, but about influence rooted in humility, compassion, and conviction. She understands that leadership isn't about being served, but about serving. And she serves with open hands, a soft heart, and a strong spirit. She leads with grace because she knows the grace she's been given. She hasn't forgotten where she came from or who carried her through. That memory keeps her grounded. It keeps her from arrogance. She doesn't use her authority to elevate herself. She uses it to lift others. She speaks life, not just correction. She builds people, not just systems. She cares about the person, not just the performance. Her leadership has weight, not because she demands respect, but because she earns it. She listens before she reacts. She chooses understanding over assumption. She calls people higher without tearing them down. People follow her not because they have to, but because they trust her. They know she sees them not just their abilities, but their humanity. She carries wisdom, but never wields it as a weapon. Her counsel is firm, but never cruel. Her standards are high, but her mercy is deep. She leads at home, in the workplace, in ministry, in friendships with the same grace that has shaped her from the inside out. Her leadership is consistent. She's not one person in public and another behind closed doors. She doesn't mask insecurity with control. She doesn't use her gifts to prove something. She knows who she is, and because of that, she doesn't lead from fear, she leads from faith. Even when she has to make hard decisions, she does so prayerfully. She brings truth, but she wraps it in love. She's not afraid to have difficult conversations, but she doesn't enjoy causing pain. She leads with the heart of a shepherd, protecting, guiding, and laying herself down when needed. Her strength isn't loud, but it's unmistakable. Her authority doesn't come from titles, it comes from her walk with God. And when she fails, because all leaders do, she owns it. She repents. She learns. She doesn't cover it up, she grows through it. Her leadership is not about perfection, it's about faithfulness. She leads from a place of deep dependence on God, knowing that without Him, she has nothing of lasting value to offer. Her grace-filled leadership creates environments where people flourish. She makes others feel safe to grow, to try, to fail, and to become who God created them to be. Her presence brings calm. Her words bring clarity. Her actions build trust. She doesn't lead to be seen, she leads to serve. And through that posture, she reflects the heart of Christ. That's what sets her apart. Not her charisma, not her accolades, but her grace. It's the quiet power that makes her leadership both compelling and unforgettable. For a godly woman, victory looks different. It's not about outshining others, accumulating titles, or gaining applause. The world defines victory as dominance, achievement, and recognition, but she has learned to measure success by faithfulness, peace, and alignment with God's purpose. Her wins are often invisible to others, quiet internal shifts that no one claps for, but heaven honors. She has redefined victory not as reaching the top, but as staying true to God in every step. Victory for her might look like forgiving when she had every reason to stay bitter. It might be walking away from a toxic opportunity that promised her influence but would have cost her integrity. Sometimes it looks like choosing rest over hustle, family over platform, presence over performance. These are not always the victories people notice, but they are the ones that build something eternal. She knows that the applause of man fades, but the reward of obedience remains. She has learned that real victory is not found in the outcome, but in the posture. Did she stay soft when life tried to harden her? Did she keep praying when answers didn't come? Did she hold her peace when others chose drama? Did she keep sowing when the soil looked dry? These are the battles she fights, not with swords, but with surrender. And every time she chooses faith over fear, grace over retaliation, love over pride, she wins. She doesn't need to prove her worth through accolades. She is secure in her identity as a daughter of God. That security gives her the freedom to lose by the world's standards and still walk away victorious. She may not always be the loudest voice in the room, but she walks in the quiet confidence of someone who knows where her strength comes from. Her joy is not tied to outcomes, it's rooted in obedience. Sometimes victory for her looks like simply showing up. On days when she doesn't feel strong, when her faith feels fragile, when the weight of life is real, she shows up anyway. She prays anyway. She chooses hope anyway. And in those moments, heaven sees her. Heaven applauds what the world overlooks. Because true victory is not about never falling, it's about rising again with grace. Her life teaches that victory isn't a destination. It's a daily decision to stay surrendered, to stay rooted, to stay faithful. It's not about always getting it right, but about getting back up and choosing God again. She knows that the final say on her life doesn't come from people. It comes from the one who sees the heart, who honors the hidden work, and who crowns the faithful with eternal reward. And so her story becomes one of quiet triumphs, deep resilience, and holy perspective. She lives a life that may not always look victorious on the outside, but is filled with wins that echo in eternity. Because when victory is redefined through the eyes of heaven, a godly woman always wins. A godly woman always wins not because life hands her easy battles, but because she walks with a strength the world cannot manufacture and a grace it cannot understand. Her victories are not always public, but they are always powerful. She wins by staying anchored in faith when everything shakes, by choosing purpose over popularity, by leading with quiet conviction and prayerful power. Her resilience in storms, her integrity in silence, her influence through humility, and her vision of victory all point to a deeper truth. She is not trying to be impressive, she is committed to being faithful. And in that faithfulness, she finds favor. In her surrender, she finds strength. In her obedience, she finds triumph. She is not moved by the changing tides of culture because her life is built on the unchanging Word of God. So even when she's overlooked, even when the world misjudges her story, she still wins because heaven is watching, and heaven never misses a single seed sown in faith. This is her power. This is her legacy. This is why a godly woman always wins.